All right, so I'm very pleased to introduce a gentleman that I'm just starting to get to know, who some people kind of call him the godfather of internet marketing. He was online since basically before the internet. Turns out he's the author of 12 books that have been translated into 15 languages, several #1 bestsellers. His ebook, Search Engine Tactics, which many call the first ebook ever, was downloaded over 1 million times by 1998, when he stopped counting. Nobody knows whether it was the first, but it seems to be the format that popularized ebooks. And he's also been the founder and promoter of many websites which have reached top 100 status on Alexa. And he's going to come up and talk a little bit about his experience in business and what he can contribute. So please welcome Mark Joyner.
Thanks for having me out here.
Thank you for coming. Where'd you come from?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. This guy flew all the way from New Zealand to come here and share.
Got a few that beat me by a few miles, but got some Aussies out here, right? Yeah, they beat me.
By the way, for some of my friends that weren't here before, raise your hand if you are from another continent. Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
It's cool. So maybe will you just, that's a little bit of background, but will you just talk a little bit more about who you are? And I'm interested in finding out what part of business you're really passionate about and interested in.
That's a really good question. Well, I'm not so interested in business per se these days, but in business as a vehicle for other things, because I believe that money is just a symbolic representation of the transfer of value, and it doesn't have to be that way in society. Society is that way right now because that's the system that we've developed. Before that, we had barter. So I'm more interested in just using business as a vehicle to give people a certain amount of freedom so that they can have an impact on the rest of the world, and that's kind of where I'm thinking these days.
Mm-hmm. What kind of, you've been sitting through this whole thing.
Great, by the way. Just give me that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. What are some of the things that resonated with you in terms of things you might be able to talk to around, marketing, getting customers, that kind of thing? Which are the things that clicked and you felt like you might be able to add?
From what we've heard so far today?
Yeah.
Over the last couple days?
Last couple days, yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it, it's interesting. Our thinking is very similar, and it's funny. There's this old song by, I can't remember this band in the 1980s, and I'm sure I'm dating myself by even saying this, and the song was, well, actually it was based on a piece of literature, and it was, everything that rises must converge, right? And the idea is as you start to kind of, get more and more mastery at whatever it is that you're doing, you kind of see things very similarly to other people because there are similar paths that we go to. So, I think that for me right now, what you were talking about people, because we're building a new organization right now, and, it's been sort of in the quiet developmental stages over a couple of years. We're just laying the infrastructure down. We got about 30 people now, and we're starting to get, a little bit of that chaos, where that's coming in. And just what you've been talking about people management and the personality types, I've seen that go on in other organizations that I've been involved in, but it's great to hear somebody verbalize and say, oh man, I'm not crazy. Yeah, someone else is seeing that, Yeah. So yeah, that resonated very well.
Yeah, you can't see these things until you have the hindsight, typically, to see them.
Totally, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Another thing, I don't know why this just popped in while you were saying that, as I've observed our business growing, you put a creative person in charge of something, what kind of people do you think that they bring on their team if you leave them alone to do it without any experience?
Crazy, disorganized,
a bunch of people just like them, and they don't want any of those other types.
And I was that guy in charge for a while.
Were you?
Right?
Yeah, so you have to be careful. What have you learned about, who would be interested in learning couple of internet-specific marketing tips? Yeah? Okay, good.
Half of everybody, almost everybody.
I think everybody.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you don't want to have any internet marketing tips at all.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
There's the truth.
I think we figured it out.
Yeah.
If you were an entrepreneur right now and you had a business and you were doing a few $100,000 or $1 million or $2 million in business, which that's most of the people in this room, and you were just, really figuring it out, what are some things that you think, and some of these people are actually pretty good internet marketers, but what are some of the things you've learned that they might not know?
Well, one interesting phenomenon that I've tried to teach people over the years, and I say try because some of it has really stuck very, very well, and you'll understand why I say that in a second. And some of it some of the more advanced stuff, I try to tell people, look, if you really want to take it to that next level, this is what you got to do, but there's a lot of effort involved. So that particular phenomenon, or I guess exploit, is something I call integration marketing. And there are two levels of it. There's a basic level and an advanced level. And it started out when we were doing ebooks in the early days, back when I remember calling people up saying, hey, can I publish your book as an ebook? And they're like, nobody's going to buy an ebook. I want a book I can hold, right? And look at it now. It's obviously very different. But after the sale of the ebook and after people were opting into newsletters and things, I just sort of, all of a sudden it clicked with me that there was real estate that was sitting there that was underutilized, right? And a good friend of mine, Joe Sugarman, who was the pioneer of the infomercial, I remember him saying something about how when people would call in and order blue blockers, does anybody know the blue blockers? Yeah. And it's just, he's a genius with what he does. And when you call up to buy a pair of blue blockers, you don't walk away with one pair of blue blockers. You got some for your dog, you got some for your grandma. And the idea was, upselling and cross-selling, right? And it sort of tuned me into that. I thought, oh, okay, people are doing this at McDonald's. I saw it everywhere. But then it didn't click with me for a little while, until I was looking at what was going on online, that it wasn't happening online. So I said, okay, look, on the thank you page of these ebooks, we'll give people this offer for this service we had called ROI Bot, which was like the first ad tracking company on the net. And we said, look, for free for the first month, because we had their credit card details, it was beautiful, just click this, get a free month. And then, you can cancel anytime, but, you can continue on with this. Probably a few people in here might remember those early days. But that was the beginning of something that was really powerful. But now everybody's doing that now, right? Everybody's putting not everybody, but a lot of smart guys are putting upsells on. I noticed you do it. Guys are sort of even trailing cross-sells and upsells and downsells and taking that to new levels. If you're not doing that, you're out of your mind, because it's just such easy money. But you have to do it in an honest way. Like a lot of guys will do this bait and switch thing. Like with a landing page, if somebody comes in and makes a promise, now you guys don't do this at all. You guys are very upfront. You guys promise something and you deliver what's promised. You give the value. But some people say, hey, just give me your name and email address and we'll give you all this stuff. And then you find out on the next page, well, actually, no, we're not going to give it to you. You got to buy this other thing, right? So that's not the way to be doing the upselling. That's a bait and switch, which is kind of a scam, Anyway, that's basic integration marketing. The idea is you're integrating one marketing process into another of your marketing processes, right? Now that's extremely powerful, and that will double, triple, quadruple your profit when you start doing that right and you get the optimization correct.
Do you have any case studies of that, or could you talk to a couple of examples?
Well, the earliest examples, were again on the back end of the ebooks. We had a free offer for the 1 month of ROI Bot, which is amazingly effective, by the way, because you've got a double thing going on there. Not only have you selected for people who are interested in something, but you've qualified people as the buyer, and now you're giving them a super low risk deal. And we got it to a point where we had the conversion up to about 50%, like 50% of the people who bought the ebook were doing the free trial, which was, it's an insane rate. But here's where it got really cool, right? So the advanced thing, and when this idea clicked in my head, I literally could not sleep. Like it was like 2 o'clock in the morning and I was like jittering, man, I got to talk to somebody about this and get this going. And I said, wait a minute. So there were a few people by then doing the ebooks on their own. This is right by around like 97 when it started to pick up and other people were doing it. And I said, hey, why don't I find, people selling products that, are of similar interest to the same market and offer this on their thank you pages, because nobody was doing it. And like, when I saw that, I realized, my God, that opens up this insanely cool channel where, there's really no limit of the partnership you can get. So I went through a hassle trying to explain this to my marketing staff because they just didn't get it. And I had this little shtick down where I'd call them up on the phone. I finally created this thing on the fly where I'd call up a prospect who I was going to offer this to, and I would say, hey, look, how many, orders are you getting a day? And of course they're going to exaggerate, right? Which only works in my favor in that case because it makes it sound better. So they would tell me how many sales, and I'd say, look, we're getting 50% on this. Let's just say conservatively you guys get 5%. You guys are doing nothing with your thank you page now. And by the way, you can still find these deals. Go buy stuff or opt into stuff and where nothing happens on the thank you page. Like how many percentage of the time do you see that? Like what, 75% where nothing happens? So we would go out and we'd find these deals, call these guys up, And I would do a little math. I'd have even like a little clickety-clack calculator there, doing the math for them. And I would basically show how at the end of a year, this is how much money we would pull out of thin air for them by doing this, just by adding like a little line of code onto their thank you page and integrating the offer. Now, that single idea, that construct, blew up our business more than anything else. We went from being a pretty successful business, outrageously successful. Now, there are a few guys, actually, there's one guy in the room. Is Telman Knudsen in here? Telman, I taught this to a couple years ago. Telman and his crew.
Hey, Telman.
Telman is a genius marketer over there. He and his crew, and he's got an amazing group of guys that he works with, they're actually taking this to heart now, and they're going out and they're finding these deals. And I don't know if we can get results from Telman on that, but if you want to hear from Telman how he's doing, but that's been a transformative impact on his business. Is that fair to say?
Do you want to share it all? Do you want to share? You want to run over here to the mic? By the way, I didn't realize you were here, Telman. I didn't recognize you with the new style.
Telman stole my hair, I think, is what happened. I took his.
Telman, as it turns out, is the guy that introduced me to this guy. And so, welcome, Telman, and thank you very much for the introduction.
You're very welcome.
So, you want to talk to that for just a sec?
Yeah, the tactic, the principle that Mark's sharing with you guys here. I mean, 3 years ago, I started a business on $50 in my apartment, and we've applied this very, very aggressively for, I don't know, past 2 years, more or less. It's our primary marketing tactic, is we go out and we find situations where people are working really hard and they're making a little bit of money. And we find ways so we can help them, double, triple, quadruple how much money they're making. There was one situation where we applied this with Harris Fellman and Merlin Homes from 12-week intensive. They were doing a teleseminar series, and we took a look at their thank you page. We applied this with the Viral Marketing Chemistry Set, which was a product that Mark and I created together. I think we generated something like $80,000 extra in sales in a 13-week period.
Let's focus on the word extra for a second here.
Extra.
Right?
It was a five minutes of work. It was literally 5 minutes of work, and we generated an extra 80 grand. Half of it went to Harris and Merlin, half of it went to us, and it turned into a pretty good story. So, that was just one example that a lot of people saw, at least in the internet marketing community. And we've gone on to do this all over the place, not only with our marketing and internet products, but we have all these self-improvement and attention deficit disorder products that we apply it to across the board as well. It's very, very powerful, and the best part is when you call somebody up, it's not hard to convince them to spend 5 or 10 minutes to potentially double or more their sales, depending on how good your system is. And it costs nothing up front. It costs zero up front, and you end up building some really, really great relationships with other businesses. So I have to take my hat off to Mark for teaching me that. It is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And if you just do a little tiny bit of that, 1 or 2 days a week, you can exponentially increase the amount of sales that you're getting. Very, very powerful.
Thanks.
I would like to nominate that idea as the best single new internet marketing tactic that I've heard this year, probably.
Wow.
Any seconds on that one? That's just a pretty damn good, simple little idea. I see Brad running out the door to go call up some sites to.
Where's Jason Moffat? He's probably already put up an integration marketing site by now. I think.
Exactly.
Well, actually, let me point something out though. Now, Telman said that he was using this as a tactic, but actually the real difference is that Telman has started to use this on a strategic level now, right? So part of his overall growth strategy is that he's looking for these types of opportunities. It's like you find this point in someone else's marketing process where nothing is happening but could,
right.
Yeah.
It's great. Have any more? I like that one a lot.
How much time you got?
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I can get some ideas that we can use. Just going to probe you a little more here. No, give me another one. That's fantastic.
Well,
that was great.
Thanks. Here's a phenomenon, actually, that we observe. But before I say this, maybe I want to kind of like drive home into everyone's head what a phenomenon is. Okay, so, and this is going to seem a little bit freaky and weird for a second because it's going to not have anything to do with what we're talking about. So, when I was in the U.S. Army, I started out in military intelligence, and then I became an artillery officer. And artillery officers are basically in charge of blowing stuff up, right? And I know it's not a pleasant topic, especially now when there's war going on all over the world, but there's a very intellectual and interesting side to that. There's Newtonian physics that go on there that are just really, really cool. And one of the things that determines where an artillery round will land is the trajectory of the round. I mean, there are a ton of things. I mean, obviously direction, the wind, even like the spin of the earth, believe it or not, will actually affect where a round will land, which it sounds crazy, but it does, because the earth is spinning pretty fast. So a trajectory, it's interesting. You guys can probably observe this when you were little kids. You were taking a hose and lifting it up so you could, drench your sister, or your brother, right? And when you raise the hose up, the water keeps going farther and farther and farther. Everybody know this? Did anybody not ever do that? Yeah, it's a weird way to put it, but
Dave on my team never did it.
Dave never did it. Okay.
No, he's the
Well,
only one,
anyway,
though.
you'll have to trust me for this, and I can't bring out a cannon to demonstrate this for you. Thank goodness. But if you do that and you fire the round out, it goes down, and then you raise up the trajectory a little bit, and it goes a little bit further, and you raise it up a little bit more, and it goes a little bit further, until you get to about 45 degrees. Now, we use mils, not degrees, because mils are way more precise, right? So you get to about the middle of the range between, like that. So about 45 degrees, somewhere halfway between 0 and 90, you're at the maximum range of that piece. Now, some of these pieces go out about 45 kilometers. Now, as you start to go higher, now the trajectory starts coming in. So you get what's called high angle fire. It goes up, and then it drops down, and then it starts shortening the length, right? So you could go really, really high up, and it's like you shoot up and 100 feet away from you if you get it right. But here's something bizarre that happens, and this is a phenomenon, okay? So they keep raising it, and it gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and there's one little sweet spot in there where you raise it a little bit, and it goes out. And then you raise it again, and it goes back in. And nobody on the planet can tell you why. That is weird, right? That's what a phenomenon is.
Is there voodoo involved in that?
There must be.
You
because
cast bones or something before you
Yeah.
shoot at that angle?
Well, I mean, the physics just do not make sense. Newtonian physics don't make sense. I know all the quantum physics guys out there are going to say, that's it, it's quantum physics proof. No, it doesn't fit the model. So I'm just trying to drive home what a phenomenon is. Now, I observed a phenomenon. Now, in marketing, you have these phenomena that you observe, and we can come up with theories that are sometimes functional and workable. It's not as precise as something as physics, right? Physics, it's either going to work or it's not, right? And that's it. But in marketing, you can throw stuff up and it can work pretty well, and you can get an ROI, right? So I observed this really strange marketing phenomenon. I have theories that would explain this, but I don't completely understand it because I've only done like this one test, right? So when we put together Simpleology, that's the company that we're building right now, we used a tactic that we started using way back in like 1994. It was like this serialized way, so that like when somebody would sign up, we would then like get them to tell friends, give them an offer, and give them tools to promote it. We don't do the give them tools to promote stuff now because Simpleology is all customer driven as opposed to affiliate driven. So we had this thing where they would opt in, we'd send them a confirmation email, they'd click on the confirmation email, get to a page that would explain, first we would explain to them why we're giving them the confirmation email, right? So who uses confirmed opt-in here? Who uses just no confirmation, just single opt-in? Okay. I'll tell you right now as a side note, you probably need to start moving to confirmed opt-in, the way the tide is turning right now, because your deliverability is going to be crap if you don't use confirmed opt-in. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation we get into. So we did the confirmation, and then they came back to the page, and it said, hey, here's your username and password. Now click on this link to log in, and remember that username and password and log in. Now, that seems really cumbersome, right? And then after they logged in, we would give them the first offer. Now, we were doing pretty well with this setup. I hadn't spent too much time playing with it. But then all of a sudden it struck me. I started, analyzing the path and looking at the diminishing returns we were getting. So like somebody would sign up, and then we would show them the page, they get the confirmation email, and then fewer and fewer and fewer people down the stream would respond, right? So not as many people would click on the link to actually log in, not as many people would log in. So by the time you've got to the offer, it's only like half of the people who initially signed in were seeing the offer. I thought, wow, I'm an idiot. Why don't I just move that offer right up to right after the sign up, right? I mean, isn't that obvious, right? You'd get more eyeballs on the offer. Increases your sales, right? I'd have twice as many people. I was so stoked. And I was like, I don't even need to test this. And I thought, wait a minute. I tell everybody, you know, don't get suckered in by that, right? So we tested it, and it was actually 30% less response. And I'm talking visitor to sale. 30% less visitor to sale. And when we test, we do it to a really intensely, statistically significant degree when we do that. So I'm very, very confident. So we use a confidence interval measurement. And do you guys know what confidence interval is? A lot of guys, when they do testing, they say, hey, look, just, you know, say which one's better, which one's, you know, however many more responses, but it's not statistically valid, right? So if you, if you do a test and you get like 5 responses for one and 20 for another, I would venture to say that that's not enough information to make that determination, even though it looks like 4 times more. Confidence interval would tell you, well, actually, based on the amount of information you have, there's a range of possible answers to that ratio. Is all that making sense? I know that's pretty heady with the statistics, but look that up, confidence interval. It's extremely useful. But we did this to a very, very statistically confident degree. So I don't understand that phenomenon, but I have a couple theories as to why. So that's what I'm thinking about right now.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Unfortunately, we've really run pretty far past our break, so I'm just going to say thank you very much for coming up and sharing a couple of really great ideas. I wish we would have had more time.
Yeah, no
Maybe
worries.
again in the future.
Yeah, you bet.
I'd love to have you come back and help
Thanks.
share. Mark, thank you for contributing. Thank you. That was cool. I love learning stuff that we can go use immediately.